Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
That was the old guy.
Yes, Cardinal.
We're going to face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's why it was.
So before we start, we're going to have Monica speak since we don't have a quorum.
I think it's time you sing it.
I can't. I'm not really a good singer.
Dance again.
That I can do.
Dance again, Mike.
I got the shoes to be up on it.
You're gonna do an interpretive dance? That'll be right.
When I was I just want to remind our department heads that are here, our commissioners that are here, anybody behind me. We've notified our staff that it's open enrollment. And the people got emails, not everybody, department heads, commissioners, people in charge of pushing paper around the county. And if anybody needs to make a change to their benefits, they need to fill out a request for an option form. So please, if you have staff meetings, if you have anything you're talking to your staff about, please let them know this is their opportunity to make changes to their benefits. The request has to be received in my office by November 22nd. It's very easy to fill out, and once we have the final rates for the coverages, we'll send them an option form, an enrollment form, everything that they have to do. But please try to pass the word for me. We've notified as many people as we can, and we did not print out documents for people to throw in the garbage because we're trying to be green. Thank you so much. Have your meeting.
Well, if I hear this one more time, I'm gonna turn green.
Actually,
No.
Monica,
Yes.
could you ask Ira or Alan?
Alan's coming.
Oh,
I
okay,
just
thank
I
you.
think they're coming in.
Oh, they're coming in. Here's Ira.
We've got a quorum.
Okay.
I'm calling the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Edwards.
Here.
Mr. Benson.
Here.
Mrs. Labuda. Mr. Sorensen. Mr. Steingart.
Here. Moving down, I feel like I'm by myself now.
Okay, so the first thing that's going to happen is we're going to move the resolution down to the bottom of the agenda so that when Kathy Labuda finishes lunch, she can come and vote on it. Second thing that we're going to do is have a public safety update by Commissioner Dick Martinkovic.
Okay, as you all know, we've been working on the radio project. We normally have at least one or more meetings. We have multiple meetings every week, but we're moving along very well with Blue Wing, and Kathy Jones has been excellent. Alex, in working on the technical stuff, has been spending hours. And I think that you'd be all very pleased, and hopefully if the weather gives us a break, we can get really moving on at least those first two towers and maybe slide into the next group. To report to Legislature, I was selected as one of 15 people as the fire coordinator from our county and president of the association on state level. We're doing a rewrite of what we call Firefighter 1. And why that's important is that this is the class that every one of our firefighters in Sullivan County and throughout the state of New York take in order to become members or get training to be members of the firefighter service. Right now it's up into around 92 hours, and there was some attempts by the NFPA to push it up well over 110 to 120 hours. And that becomes an issue because we're dealing with volunteers. And that's a lot of hours to be away from home and so forth. So we'll have multiple meetings, we'll see where that goes, but it directly affects us, and hopefully I'll have some good say in it. We've been also looking into, and we have a meeting at 2 o'clock to get more discussions about broadband. I've had multiple discussions with some of my coordinators, I should say, in different parts of the state on the broadband project. It's definitely something that we need to do. We just got to figure out how we can do it in a planning fashion, so that's subject for more discussion. As a reminder, the legislature had already dedicated a piece of State Route 55, better known as Neversink Road in the town of Liberty, from the barracks at the village line to the town of Neversink line. They are going to have a ceremony in front of the barracks at 11 a.m. on Saturday, November 23rd. That's the 10th anniversary of the passing of Sergeant Jeffrey T. Edelson, and everyone is invited to attend. It'll be in front of the barracks, weather permitting. If we can't do it for weather, we will move to another location and we'll announce it at the time. But everybody is invited, and I think it's a very important ceremony to go. And last but not least, of course, been working on the budget for 14, going back and forth, looking at the different departments in my division as well as those departments that I control myself. That's it, Cora.
Thank you. Alex, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Thank
Did
you.
we see him earlier?
Yeah, my report very brief. We have two new dispatchers in training, so that's moving along. And as Dick mentioned, I've been spending a lot of my time trying to get the radio project going. We have two towers we'd like to try and get done in the next 4 months to meet some grant project goals and interoperability base stations, et cetera. So we have some work over the next 4 months. I think we've made some really good traction in moving it down the road, so we're getting there.
Well, when you have invited me, I mean, I know I've got the standing invitation to the meetings, and I just have to make a comment at this point, and that is the teamwork is incredible.
Absolutely.
Everybody is really stepping out of their comfort zone, whether it's DPW or purchasing or, 911, and I think this is something we've talked about a lot, Alex, that we can really be proud of as a county in terms
It's a
of
big team effort.
an infrastructure project that really benefits everyone in the county, all parts, north, south, east, west. And I really want to thank you guys for all the hard work you're doing on that.
Thanks for your support, and we'll keep on moving it.
Greg, can we have your report?
Sure, I'll try to keep it short and sweet. At our last captain's meeting, we had 12 of the 16 agencies in the county present, and the other 4 contacted me and they couldn't make it for various reasons. So they'll be getting a package from the meeting. Tuesday, we had an active shooter MCI training presented by Dr. Holden and Dr. Shazad from the Catskill Regional. They're very on board with helping us with training, and that was a very well attended and a good presentation. Back in October, the Bureau of EMS and the EMS and fire agencies from our county participated in Orange County OEM and Metro North mass casualty incident drill down in Sparrow Bush. And we were able to get a lot of good ideas and contacts for planning the MCI drill we're going to be doing here in the spring. We're also establishing a tag to update the county EMS mutual aid plan. That's something we've been tasked by the Department of Health to do. Right now we're putting together an electronic training needs and interest survey to go out to all the agencies to help us assist us in planning training for 2014.
Good.
February 21st and 22nd, we'll be hosting, along with the Bureau of Fire, a Niagara University Train the Trainer for fire EMS employees for responding to incidents with developmentally disabled individuals. Starting in 2014, we're going to be meeting on a regular basis with our counterparts from Orange County and Ulster County just to exchange information. Orange County is kind of ironic. They are now holding quarterly captains meetings the same as we are.
We're setting a trend.
We set a small trend. And last but not least, or maybe the least, at our annual State EMS Coordinators Association meeting in Buffalo 2 weeks ago, I got reelected statewide vice president.
And I'd also like everybody to understand that Greg does this as a volunteer. So we really thank you. I know other counties actually pay their people to do it, so we're very grateful.
Do you have a packet with you?
From the meeting?
Yeah.
No.
No.
I'll get one to you.
Also, can you just briefly describe the tier 1, 2, and 3 trainings that are going up in Albany on the 18th or 19th? Does anybody here have
I
any
no clue
updates
about
on that?
those.
This is the training that's OEM training.
Okay, so what's
Okay.
happening there with that?
Well,
Can you
it's
just let
the-
everybody know?
The way it's set up, it's mandatory per the governor's office that the emergency services have to attend and be certified in the state level training. And the first phase will start next week up in Albany. The first day, the OEMs and the executives of all the counties, in the case it would be Josh, are supposed to spend a day together in training, talking with the state folks that if we had a state of emergency, not only locally, but with the state or with the feds, what are our responsibilities, how would we function? And then the tier 2 piece is just the OEMs, people like myself, who will then complete by Friday the tier 2 to go over all the changes and the things that the state wants to do with us. Some questions about home rule will come up, and I'll let you know about that as we go down the road. And then the third phase, they're going to do it in regional approach. They want to bring in the fire chiefs, the EMS responders, and go over some of their responsibilities if we go to a state of emergency. So
And I think that the main, I went to that one-day governor's conference on emergency preparedness a couple of weeks ago, and I think the thing that is very critical for everybody to understand, at least, you know, we've experienced it with Irene, Lee, Sandy, is that we're kind of in a perpetual state of readiness, if that's the right way to put it. And that's what I see this emergency preparedness doing, is making a wider group of people more interrelated and interconnected, because so many people come from so many different places whenever there's an emergency. Some people from Sullivan County were down in Long Island, all that kind of stuff, so that there's much more uniformity throughout the state and the region, and I think that the governor's doing a very good job in taking the lead on that. The next person I'd like to have give their report, if you don't mind. Last night there was a law enforcement panel which our district attorney headed. It was sponsored by the NAACP. They're going to be having another one next Wednesday at SUNY Sullivan with the law enforcement students. And if you could just give us a very Reader's Digest condensed version of what you spoke about last night, the Department of the FBI statistics for what's going on in Sullivan County. It was really helpful to hear that last night.
Right. I wish we had a way to kind of coordinate all these statistics, but we really don't, because they're all reported differently. What I talked about was the FBI keeps track of what we call index crime. They keep track of that for property crimes, burglaries, larcenies, and motor vehicle thefts. Those are the classifications that they look at for index crime.
And can you just delineate the difference between larceny, burglary, and robbery? 'Cause that was helpful.
Larceny is theft, and burglary burglary comes from a home. They separate burglary out. They don't separate robbery out. The FBI doesn't. They make robbery a violent crime. So in terms of the index crime, they're looking at property crime, which is the total number, burglary, larceny, and motor vehicle theft. Robbery is when you steal from a person. Okay? The violent crime consists of murder, forcible rape, robbery, and aggravated assault. Unfortunately, New York doesn't view our statutory scheme that same way. Burglary is considered violent crime. So while the FBI considers it nonviolent, New York considers it violent. So when you look at my numbers in terms of prosecutions, burglaries are violent. So they're in the violent number. But what we see across the board, unfortunately, from 2009, which is the year that I use, 2010 we saw that the FBI reported a 10% increase in total crime in Sullivan County. Again, that's reported crime to police officers. Doesn't mean it's solved, doesn't mean anyone's arrested. In 2011, that went up another 12% in Sullivan County. In 2012, it was flat. It was down less than 0.5%. So it was basically the same level as 2011. Total crime. Violent crime, the FBI tracks. This is more disconcerting, and of course my numbers follow this as well. In 2010, there was a almost 19% increase in violent crime, again, reported to police agencies in Sullivan County. In 2011, it was down 9%, and in 2012, it was down 6%. Now, again, that's reported crime, not solved crime. My numbers deal with arrests. How many people are we prosecuting? And in 2010, we saw an 18% increase in our total cases, a 19% increase in felonies, and a 20% increase in violent felonies, which is akin to what the FBI reported. In 2011, we saw a drop-off. We were flat in total crime, but we were down 15% in violent crime. So that was good for 2011. 2012, we were down total cases about 13%, but we were up 14% in violent crime. So we saw a reverse, and that's what I attribute to the burglaries, the increase in burglaries in Sullivan County. And I think that's a driving factor in the violent crime. Do we have the shootings? Do we have the robberies? Yes, but the burglaries are driving that number. But I have good news for 2013. Through the third quarter of 2013, these numbers are provisional at this point. We're down about 8% in total crime, and we're down about 34% violent crime. Now, what does that mean? It could mean a lot of different things. Remember, I'm looking at numbers which involve arrests. who got arrested. The FBI will come out with their statistics. Those numbers for 2013 will probably not be finalized until sometime late 2014. But I can tell you at this point, what they're tracking through July, we're seeing, similar to my numbers, we're seeing a 12% decrease in violent crime through July of 2013 in the FBI's reported numbers. So these are good numbers, because that means that people who are reporting crime are reporting less of it. So that's good. That's a very good number. Whereas my numbers, you can't really look at and say it may be less, because maybe just we're not apprehending them. Okay? So I see good in the 2013 numbers. I didn't like the increase in violent crime in 2012. I thought that was, again, that's driven by our burglary epidemic, and we ended 2012 with 568 reported burglaries in Sullivan County, the police agencies, which was the highest number that we've ever seen.
And that's attributed to the fact that they're using these as currency, the items that they're.
Correct. Pawning them, and of course the pawn law has helped us recover a lot of the jewelry that's been stolen. The 15-day waiting period has been instrumental in that. We've been able to recover people's property when their homes have been burglarized. So it is in large part drug fueled. A lot of this is for drugs, to get money, to pawn stuff, and to then convert it into drugs.
And can you talk a little bit about the trends that you discussed last night, which, are kind of disturbing, but
Well,
it's always hard to keep ahead of the latest iteration.
The biggest trend is the abuse of prescription painkillers. We are the highest per capita prescription rate of hydrocodone in the state of New York. We lead the state. 562 out of every 1,000 adults in Sullivan County per capita have a prescription for hydrocodone.
This isn't
One of
an
the
AA meeting, you
reasons
don't
for
have to
that,
admit
I
you're
would
doing
say,
it.
is because of
Wait, whoa. Dick had his hand raised, then Kitty.
I'll make this quick. What you just mentioned, Jim, is that because we have some people who have the ability to issue medical prescription drug orders that are released to individuals in large quantities. Kitty had
Well, one of the things that I would say that in the nursing world and in the medical world that I'm aware of, for more than 10 years now, we have called pain a fifth vital sign, and you no longer could subjectively treat it. You had to medicate, So there is a large increase of prescriptions given out because the medical community has deemed it as the fifth vital sign. You say you're in pain,
Bingo.
you go
Here's
on
your pill.
0 to 10 is the scale. You might say hitting your thumb was a 10. I can't say it's a 2.
So Sullivan County's big there on the
I mean,
pain scale.
that's
Sullivan
what
would
it
be under
boils
10.
down to.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
We lead
you wanna finish,
We lead the state.
Jim?
And unfortunately, what is happening is pills are, as you know, they're,
A commodity.
correct. And of course, when people don't have money,
Can we keep
and
our
they can't
attention
afford the
one
pills,
conversation at a time, please?
then we have the issue of people going to heroin, because heroin is a substitute for hydrocodone. It's a substitute for oxycodone or oxycontin because it has the same effect on our central nervous systems. It's the same type of drug. And then you have people going into heroin. And we've seen that, and the sheriff can attest to that. We've seen that in a lot of the cases that we're seeing. We're seeing overdoses. We're seeing a lot of people who are now overdosing from the heroin and dying, unfortunately. And of course, we lead the list in infant mortality and mortality and the rest of it. Our health is not good here in this county. So this is an issue that we're looking at. We are looking at it. We're trying to address it in a number of ways. We're trying to address it through education, through a task force that Carol Ryan spearheaded before she left, that puts together folks who are issuing the prescriptions, the pharmacists, the medical providers, the hospitals engaged in this, law enforcement, Simi Williams, from the chief of police in Fallsburg, recently just set up a 24/7 drop box for prescription medication. So if you've got them and you're not using them and they're old, we can get rid of them. We can get rid of them in a safe way, because we need to get these prescriptions out of the medicine cabinets where kids are stealing them, taking them, and selling them, and get them disposed of properly.
Out of the waste
And we want
stream.
to educate people about the addictive nature of these substances so that they know when they're prescribed it what the potential is. I've talked to parents whose kids have become addicted to heroin because they had a situation where they were lawfully prescribed a drug, hydrocodone or oxycodone, and then they got hooked on it. And then it turns into a heroin addiction that they're battling for the rest of their lives. So we're working on that through education and also enforcement. We're trying to get the doctors engaged to try and the feds have damped down on Oxycontin. Oxycontin is a substance that the feds don't want prescribed anymore. The DEA is really coming down on Oxycontin. But hydrocodone, oxycodone, not so much, and we really need to educate folks so that they know what the dangers are before they get addicted, because they're highly addictive.
Kitty, you had your hand raised a second
I
ago.
just wanted to add to what Jim is saying, because one of the other issues that surround that is if you get a prescription, say, for 30 pills, and then you got to renew it 2 or 3 times, by the second renewal, you probably went through it in a shorter period of time, and then you need to hit the street to get your drug, and that's where the illegal drugs come in, because whether you go to CVS or Rite Aid or your local pharmacy, they all know if you've filled it already. It's not like you can fill it again, get another script. They know that you have passed your limit, and that is helpful, that you can't get too much, but it also forces the people to the street.
Right, and that's the iStop. What she's talking about is the iStop program. Kitty's talking about the Attorney General came down with a program that we didn't have this previous. This is brand new, where everyone knows who is getting the prescription drugs. The state knows. So if you go to one doctor and then you try to get another prescription, the state knows, and when you go to the pharmacy, it flags it, so that the person can't fill it sooner than they are due for their prescription. But we still have to combat, I think, the issue of prescriptions, because I think we're overprescribed, really.
What about
There's any
doctor
other
shopping?
answer.
First Alan, then Greg, then Annie.
I was reading, I think it was in The Economist, the United States and I think New Zealand are 2 of the only Western countries that allow pharmaceuticals to advertise their products on TV, and I think that's a big part of the problem, because tune into any broadcast in the evening or all day long, and all you hear is Lunesta, or you having trouble sleeping? Tell your doctor these are your 4 symptoms, and he'll give you the medication. It's like, I'm sick of hearing it, but that is, it's gonna take federal legislation to change that, but that's, I think, a big part of the problem.
Well, there was a time when they didn't advertise.
They should prohibit it, just like they prohibited smoking advertising, and that's really where it's gotta begin, because the kids are hearing it from, the time they're 6 months old. They're hearing all these commercials about, you feel in a certain way, then they'll give you the symptoms, tell your doctor you have these symptoms, and what's the end result? You go to the doctor, you tell them you have these symptoms, and you walk out with the medication. It should not be allowed.
And here's another ominous fact regarding this whole situation is when kids, teenagers, know that mom and dad has taken hydrocodone and it's been made by Pfizer or whoever makes it, I don't know who makes it, they think it's safe to take. And then they take it. They think because it's made by a pharmaceutical company, it must be safe to take. And that's another way abuse starts, because they think it's okay because it's not heroin, it's not cocaine, it's not some substance, I don't know what it is. This has a little number on it and I know exactly what it is. Because Pfizer says that's what it is, or whatever, I don't have to single out Pfizer, but the pharmaceutical company says that's what it is. So another bad problem. They think it's safe and then they get themselves addicted.
But the bottom line
Greg,
is the
you-
medical community.
Greg had his hand
If
raised.
they don't get
Greg had his hand
educated,
raised.
that's a big vital sign.
Agreed.
Greg still has his hand raised.
What was brought out at our last task force meeting, so I'm fortunate to be able to sit on the drug task force with Jim and a bunch of the doctors and stuff, was that the doctors in Sullivan County now are checking the iStop program, especially at Catskill, the medical center before they write a prescription for pain meds to see if they're gone to any other doctors to get a
Yes,
prescription.
Catskills are extremely engaged in this.
Yes, they are.
Very much so. Emergency room, Boomer Bojo is
Yep.
really, really engaged, and the hospital is engaged in this
And
project.
Dr. Holden's right on top of all the ER docs,
Yeah.
making sure that they check it.
So that's good.
Well, I think also I appreciate this because the trending is always gonna be ahead and we're always gonna be playing catch-up. This wasn't the conversation we had last year at this time, when it was a different drug of choice. And the bath salts came and then the laws came in and so we're constantly looking at the next wave and how to, address the next wave that comes through. Did you have anything else you needed to add, Jim?
No, I hope the numbers continue their trend. That would be good for 2013. I hope that the FBI uniform crime numbers show that same trend, because if they do, that means that we're on the right path to seeing reported crime down and then the amount of people in the system lower.
Thank you. Jeff? Did you bring the bag I asked you to, is that down in the probation department?
Yeah, I did bring it.
You brought it with you?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Instead of show and tell, it's show and smell.
Well, I can bring everything up, because it's just a pungent odor for the one thing that I left downstairs. Basically, probation continues to be inundated with orders for.
Speak up, please.
Probation continues to be inundated with orders for pre-sentence reports. 23 orders came in during the past 2 weeks. Currently, there are 50 reports that staff is working on. 21 of these reports are for individuals who are incarcerated. We are prioritizing, obviously, the ones for the individuals incarcerated, just to try and save as much funds as possible for the county. However, we still are asking for adjournments basically for middle of February, whereas before we were able to get those reports done within 6 weeks, which would have put it, beginning of January. So we do have a backlog with that.
So, Jeff, can I interrupt and then pass around this draft resolution
Yeah.
for the okay. And then that's gonna be brought up in executive, but this is just a draft so everybody can read it.
And that draft is something that got over earlier this morning, concerning that, with that position, it would expedite the process of completing these reports, and the savings would be much more than it would cost to have that extra staff member. And it's not really an extra staff member, it's, we've had cuts through the years, and it's just building up probation to what it once was. Also, the Splinter program, where a sheriff's deputy accompanies a probation officer during home visits, evening home visits, is still curtailed. It was expected to have it up and running once again, but staffing issues have precluded this. 157 home visits were made last year, 87 were made during the current year. Part of the home visits, and it's something you asked me to bring up, a little show and tell item here.
This is the reason why they have to make home visits as opposed to a kiosk system, which is what's being done in New York City.
Nobody expects probation to crash the party at 11 o'clock at night, so this is from a DWI client with alcohol and drug conditions, and he's currently in treatment. So this is the kind of stuff that you find during those home visits that are conducted in the evening. So we would like to, obviously it's an important program, we'd like to get that up and running, and this is just a tenth of the type of stuff that we wind up finding during these home visits. I didn't bring everything up because it
No,
fills this room.
that's graphic enough,
That's show and tell.
I knew I liked
And that
you.
was all, that was 16-ounce cans of Keystone Ice.
What is that?
It's a fine quality beer.
You want
I think it's $3.99 a case.
If it's high quality, I don't know.
What's the word? Thunderbird. What's the price?
Yeah,
Twice.
it's in the Thunderbird.
What's the price?
Those were the good old days. I remember that dog.
And one last thing, the buzz around the office concerns the parole civil service test. 9 of the 14 officers in the office took the test. They all placed in the top 10%. So we'll see how that plays out. I'm hoping that all the openings are in Watertown. near the Canadian border because it would decimate the department if people decided to look elsewhere.
That's because you train everyone so well.
Yeah.
So that's nothing to be ashamed of, but it is.
The difference is over $10,000, and those officers have also applied in joining counties, Ulster and Orange. So we train them, they thank us. And it's been an ongoing issue. I've been with the department for 27 years. It's just been like that for years and years and years.
Well, there was a time when Sullivan County was on par with other surrounding counties in terms
There was
of,
a time where the pay differential wasn't that much that you would look at it and you'd say, it's just not worth the extra travel. Just like myself, many years ago, I had an opportunity to work in Orange County, but to travel from the Calhoun area to Middletown, I said, you know what, it's not worth it. But I think I might take a different view now. And that's just, like I said, it's an ongoing issue. I don't know, what the resolution to that is.
well, I do think that if we institute these quarterly meetings, quarterly reports, and Angel, who is in probation office, gave, two estimates, somewhere around $400,000 to possibly $1 million in saving, outboarding costs. That was, am I in the right
That's correct,
ballpark
yeah.
there?
The addition, as I mentioned before, but the extra pretrial individual, I would estimate a minimum of $400,000 a year the county would save in not having to board out inmates.
So I think that's significant. Kathy, did you have
Yeah,
something to
this
say?
was kind of, just reading your.
Yeah, that this is gonna go,
Yeah.
but we just wanna, make sure that if anybody has any questions about this draft, they can ask, and then we're hoping that it will sail through executive with 9 votes.
Make sure you email it to me, Jim.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, you need it in email. Thanks. Any other comments, Jeff?
No.
I really appreciate your time in putting all those charts and graphs and spending so much time educating all the legislators on how probation works. Now I'd like to take,
Laura?
yes, I'm sorry.
This is actually per something that you've always requested on these resolutions, is the pay and the scale, what we would expect, if you would put that in there.
Oh, well spotted,
Great, thank you.
per my request.
Well, you got grade level 8, which, all you gotta do is look in the contract.
No, but we need to have the amount.
Well,
And then
It's on your
you'll
website.
have the certificate of availability of funds that has everybody's sign off on it by the time it gets to Scott's
I
committee.
need the original to that too.
Okay.
whatever she says, that's what you do.
All righty. Sheriff Schiff.
We have 3 recruits in the academy.
He's a
From
ventriloquist.
the road patrol, they're gonna graduate February 7th. Patrol continues to be very busy. There's a lot of larcenies from cars all of a sudden. We had 25 up in the Manor last month, 11, and one night, Rock Ridge Road. I understand state police made an arrest last night. We're gonna be comparing notes with them. They supposedly grabbed somebody.
It was one person that stole 11 cars?
Oh, I don't know. It was
Oh.
11.
Not cars.
Broken.
Oh, I'm sorry, break-in.
Yeah, break into the cars.
We continue to hire in the jail. How many openings do we have now?
We have 4 left.
4 left. So we're reaching, mandations are down, and we're reaching maximum staff in there. And the civil division has been extremely busy with evictions, and we actually seized some cars and had an auction. And they're on track to.
Somebody's drinking.
Get out of there.
That's mine.
They're taking the evidence.
I sense
Civil's
a
on
key.
track to set some records. That's basically it.
Oh, okay. Hal, while we have you here, I know we've been having a lot of meetings with, all different aspects of jail, current capacity, and so on. And I just want you to address this incredible chart. Everybody has a different take on whether it's an EKG or a lie detector test. but it's actually the ups and downs of jail capacity since 1989. And it was Josh actually who observed that, at the time that there were all of the projections, it was kind of going to be this never-ending spiral upward. But we're actually at the numbers now that we were in 1989.
That is correct.
And that the different people have made different comments to these particular attributes as to when we were down, like in 1990 and 1996. These are the the lowest points, 2001, 2009. So, do you have any guesstimates as to what happened in those times when the capacity bottomed out?
Well, there's a lot of factors that become involved. I mean, you're talking about the 90s, early 2000, life was pretty good in Sullivan County. You know, we had a little bit of money, people were working. Of course, we didn't have, you know, today, we've got this horrific drug issue going around the street. You know, back in the early 90s, 2000, middle 90s, we didn't have this prescription drug problem that we have today. So, I mean, there's all you know, you talk about law enforcement levels. I mean, through the years, every department, Fallsburg, Liberty, the Sheriff's Office, has done this up and down with their manpower on the road, as well as the state police. The state police back, you know, those times, they were devastated for a while. So, less cops on the road, less arrests.
That would be a really good overlay to put the numbers of road patrol in another color and see.
Well, you would have to put not just Sheriff's Road Patrol, you'd have to
all
see
the
what
all law
everybody was
enforcement
doing. You know, because obviously Monticello PD is
Up and
where a
down.
lot of crime comes
I'd
out
like
of
to see
this
the
area,
unemployment
Fallsburg.
rate on there.
So there's a lot of factors that go into your jail population.
And Kitty, can you repeat what you just said?
I would like to see the unemployment rate in the county on there, so how employment, people having jobs impacts upon crime. I would think that it would impact in a way that there would be less crime if there was more working.
Sure.
So I
But
think
I'd
we
like
can,
to see if there really is a correlation.
I'll see if we can get a student from the SUNY Sullivan Law Enforcement class through Genevieve Daynak to kind of start putting more overlays on these, and we'll see what trends we can come up with. Is there anything else you'd like to say, Hal, while you have the floor?
No, we've pretty much, through this entire week, dashed it all.
It's jail
So-
week. And anyone who
What
has, on the
channel is that on?
legislature who has not gone to visit the jail, and it should definitely
Absolutely,
go
don't
and
take it
stop
too
in
long.
and have a look. What I'd like to do right now is introduce Sean McGinnis and Carla Hahn from the National Park Service. They attended Alan's previous meeting in planning and environmental management. I know they play a great role in safety, public safety on the river in the summer. So if you can just, you know, make a very quick, you know.
Great, thanks, Laura.
Mhm.
And the session this morning was great with Alan. I just want to say thanks. You know, Dave, we've been working together, and the sheriff, and you know, we do have jurisdiction on the river, basically high water to high water. That's our authority that we can, you know, enforce federal laws, basically federal regulations. And then the valley itself, which is within the boundary of the Upper Delaware Scenic and Recreation River, the basically ridge to ridge. You know, it was decided back when they did the legislation that we would not have authority there, even though there's issues within the boundary that we care a lot about, but we just don't have that authority. It wasn't given to us, so that's the way it works. Right now we're down, like everybody else, we're down to 4 permanent rangers, and 2 of those are off 2 months a year. And it's, you know, it's looking like we continue to get more sequestered. It's these furloughs that is our only way of you know, making ends meet, is having the rangers be off less time. So we're focusing on summer season. So we're doing that. The other issue is that we do provide money to the county for law enforcement services. We used to provide money to the towns for trash pickup, but that we had to kind of bring that back in just because of our budget situations. And we're kind of taking that responsibility ourselves of the access. But the law enforcement funds are still available to the sheriff, although it's not as much as it used to be, but it's the largest one we have. I forget how much it is with you guys.
It's like 24,000.
24,000. Used to be a lot more than that.
Yes, it did.
So, right. So anyways, we still provide that, and I'm
Like
still supporting that,
24,000, or is it
although that is a target for us, you know. And that's where I have to balance, you know, the whole, the partnerships and how we manage the River Valley together, the county and the towns and the state with us. As do we continue giving that $24,000 to the county, or can I use that $24,000 to keep park rangers on that are fully federal law enforcement officers, have all all the
You can give it to the
training.
county.
County.
I mean, that's
Not
the goal, that's
necessarily
the way
to
it's
the
supposed to
sheriff.
work, but those are decisions that you all face, I face, so. But, the relationship between the Rangers, cause I was in law enforcement for, 24 years myself, that's my background. And, so it's been a great working with the county. You guys come down to the river, you take care of issues, we go into the campgrounds, we go into, places and that we can do law enforcement and, deal with the situation, and then, of course, then we have to pass it off immediately to the county or to the towns. And I really appreciate, the professionalism that our Rangers have received, and I have totally asked them to do the same thing. So, and I've also asked our law enforcement guys to, make sure that they're reaching out to the communities, to deliveries, to the campgrounds, all these places where our issues are mostly at. So that's all I have, any questions. And Carla works with me in the office, and we manage special use permits and stuff, activities that occur, so that's what we do. And I appreciate the effort you guys come down to the river and take care of some of the issues for us, so that our visitors are the benefactors of, public safety. And then we've also instituted more of a professional search and rescue operations on the river.
Oh, good.
We donated a boat to a town in Narrowsburg for rescue, and we're asking the towns to up their standards of professionalism and using the incident command system to respond to all incidents on the river, and that the Park Service will be the lead on any incidents unless, of course, we're not available. And then and Joe Hinkes, the Chief Ranger, is working with towns on that. And so I've got a lot of experience in that, so I just asked him, and, I've worked with Dick at the beginning. We've met with all the counties on public health and public emergency services on the river and the valley. So
How many different law enforcement agencies do you interact with at the Park Service?
A lot,
Okay.
because it's probably somewhere around 12 or so, 12, 15. Besides the local folks, state and county and towns, we also have the other federal law enforcement, Fish and Wildlife Service, DEA. So it's a lot, and we can use their jurisdictions for a lot of stuff, like the tilapia farms on the river. We brought Fish and Wildlife in to do investigation on that, working with DEC, a lot of stuff. Because our key thing is really resource crimes and visitor type things. So, but our number one is really resource crimes on the river is what we focus on. Then we have to deal with all the other stuff that you guys know all about.
Well, we, just so that, people who weren't in Alan's meeting do get a sense of the kind of national treasure that we have by having a National Park Service on our western border. It's a tremendous asset, liquid asset, is like I like to call it. And we really need to make a better effort at marketing this tremendous asset that we have in the county that benefits not just the county, not just the region, not just the state, but the country as a whole. And I really appreciate all the work that you all are doing.
Yeah, take advantage of us, we're there. Our budget just for law enforcement is just around $700,000 for emergency services and law enforcement. So we have a lot of equipment, we have a lot of, we put a lot of effort into the river and the valley. So working together, and then of course, with the radio system that's coming on board, that's going to be a help. And we're working ourselves to up our communications and working with the towns for communications and 911 and cell service.
Well, in Kitty's Government Services meeting, which is going to be rapidly approaching at 2 o'clock, we're going to be having a presentation by Frank Yoder. He's the Broadband Services Manager for the state of Pennsylvania. And, we have Wayne County bordering on the other side of the river with 2 tower sites there. So you're more than welcome to stay. I think he's a really, he's a public servant. He gives a lot of valuable technical assistance without asking for a penny.
Great,
So.
thanks. And okay, so this is a classic example of kind of the situation that the Park Service is in. We're supposed to protect and preserve all these scenic qualities and all these things, that night sky and all these things that people like go, really? But we do, and it's the future. So towers are something that we're like, in the past we've always been like, no towers visible. But reality is that towers are needed, but we really want to work. We've worked with Dick. We really want to work with the towns, and Verizon's on the other side now, putting 2 towers in town of Damascus. So we want to look at this more of a comprehensive. How many towers are going to be in the entire valley, and can we all work together to figure out a way to try and maintain the scenic qualities within the valley.
You
So
can
that's what
count on us.
that's what I asked back to you, that you guys to understand that need, not for me or for us, but for the river. This is your national park unit, so, and it's just protecting those values.
I
Thanks.
think it's safe to say we're committed partners. I'm going to make a motion now that we review the resolution that's attached to the packet. Resolution to enter into an agreement with the Oneida County Sheriff to provide for security for inmates receiving mental health treatment at Central New York Psychiatric Center in Marcy.
Move it.
Second, Alan. So, my understanding is that we have another, this is a 2-year contract, which expires December 31st. You are able to keep the costs at level, right? They were at one time 140, they moved to 165 in the last contract. I'm very relieved and pleased, Hal, that you've been able to not have to send anyone to Marcy this year. It's 0. What would be helpful in the future is, just we have quarterly reports as to if it's a 0, and if it's not, it's not. But at least, like with the outboarding, we're sort of kept apprised as it goes along, so we can keep our finger on the pulse.
No problem.
Alrighty, so all in favor? Any opposed?
5-0.
Thank you very much. And now, public comment. Yes, Tom?
I just want to say, I know you're going to have the vote next week on the Apollo, and I know Ira's worked hard on that, but I feel strongly, and I've said it before in other meetings, that you shouldn't leave the sheriff's building out of the deal that I think that these guys have, especially when I talk to the guys and they say that it's a fire trap where they're at, that it should come out of the deal, that was promised to them. And I think that it's a separate parcel, it's an option on, I think the deal should go through as you structured it, whatever, the residents are good business people, just like a lot of us are, but on the other hand, you have to look at our own guys first, and that was something that was promised them a few years back. And if you build a jail later, fine, you could always sell it, or whatever you want to do, but I really think that should be part of the deal. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Any other public comment? All right.
Motion to adjourn?
Kathy?
Thank you.
Second.
Alan.
Alan.
Thanks to everybody.